Welcome to episode 50. We've made it this far. We have been able to string together enough things to get to 50 episodes, and for that we thank you for listening. With this, we're having a special Clinically Pressed giveaway. Sign up for our email where we just send you each episode in an email so you get it delivered directly to your inbox. Nothing more than that. Maybe a special offer from time to time, but that'll be it. Go to clinicallypressed.com/50 or just to clinicallypressed.com and sign up with the pop-up. We'll be taking entries for that for about the next 2 weeks, and we'll close that on August 15th. So just need a name and an email, and that is it. Again, we'd really like to thank everybody that's listened and has been listening. Please share it if you think it's valuable and you think other people might get something from it. If you ever have questions for us, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what helps us improve and get you guys the information that you want, that you can apply to your lives, and get the people that you want to listen to and hear about their expertise. So with that, please enjoy this roundtable discussion for episode 50. Welcome to this episode of Clinically Pressed. We're doing something a little different for this one. We've got the gang back together again. So we got Kyle, AJ up from Missouri, Andy up from Texas. I guess Kyle down from West Salem, technically.
The travel of all.
Yeah. And so we were trying to come up with a topic, and we figured we would just go around and talk about what all of the answers to the Clinically Pressed questions would be. So to get that started, the first one we're going to amend just a little bit, saying what is something that if you could go back over the year and tell yourself, what would you do? Who wants to go first?
I should have thought for a little while.
Good talk. It's your idea.
I guess I could start.
Abort.
Change podcast episode. Who thought of that?
I think if I could go back, so it's more of a personal thing, and if anyone from the lab is listening, they'll understand, but we've been having a little bit of a problem in our lab from time to time. I think it's the nature of the beast when you work in a high capacity type of environment with high productivity type people, is just you tend to get at each other's throats a little bit, and people get stressed and get down. So one pact I kind of made before I left was that I was going to try to be more positive. And I think if I could go back differently, a lot of these situations that I maybe got myself in, or a lot of the times where I felt really down about things, were more because of my attitude about the reality than the reality itself. So if I could go back a year and just do things differently as far as taking in what is presented to me, because the work is always going to be there. We're always going to have a lot of work to do, and it's always going to be pretty high stress as far as deadlines and maybe not being super comfortable in your knowledge base in a specific area. I'm trying to keep it as general as possible. But taking a step back and realizing, instead of it being stressful and it being another kind of roadblock to doing what I want to do, it's an opportunity to grow and learn rather than some big detriment to my daily life. Mm-hmm. So I guess the general overwhelming idea would be, before you react, to take a step back and look at it as an opportunity rather than react and have everything go to crap.
You can't change the events that occur, but you can change your reaction to them.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I think, for me...
The original Joel, come on.
Well, it was actually one of mine. It was just like patience and frustration, and then looking at the system that I work within on a much bigger scale, and not just in my daily life, just that things don't move quickly. And how can you affect that? And anytime I get like pissed, or I'm like, oh, it's this person's fault, or this is, and they aren't, on top of this, or so on and so forth, I recommend everybody, this would be a book recommendation. It's been a while since I read it. Jocko Willink, he was on Tim Ferriss, he's a Navy SEAL. Extreme Ownership is the name of the book. And every time I start getting into that mindset, I come back to like his whole thing is everything that basically happens to you and how you react, that's you. Like if it didn't go your way, or that person didn't understand what you were trying to say, that's on you. That's your issue. And like own that. And you need to do a better job presenting it, or maybe present it in a different way, or different things like that. I think that's what I've tried to come back to, is stop trying to pin anything on somebody else, and making sure that I did everything I could to get it to where I needed it to be. So that was kind of, the piggyback, like taking that step back before I get all frustrated and, this, and trying to go off and do something different. Going back and say, okay, how could we reframe this to maybe potentially get it across? And then when you argue safety, that helps a lot. I've learned when you argue safety, people start listening.
Safety or liability. We can get sued for this.
Yeah, all in the same, definitely.
Well, I'm going to follow up that one along the same lines then.
We're so original.
With looking at things, again, framing it in perspective, and like stuff happens, and not looking at it as good or bad, because maybe it seems like it at that point in time, but things are going to play out down the road, and maybe what looked like it was bad initially when it occurred, it turns out it's got a silver lining, or it works out for the better, or the flip side of that too, maybe what you wanted at the time, what you thought was really good, it turns out that, oh man, that it wasn't good at all, or that's not how it would have ideally played out. So just kind of, again, looking at the perspective, and just almost taking things as they come a little bit, and just kind of seeing how they play out, and still controlling what you can control and everything. But if it's out of your control, kind of not resisting it as much, but just more acceptance with it.
The original.
If I go back, I would have put money on the Rockets last night. So that one backfired on me.
Well, that's the episode, guys.
No, in theory now that's legal. It could be.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, certainly. Mine would probably be making health more of a priority, and realizing once you lose health, every other part of your life will just start to crumble, and it's very difficult to do whatever you want to do once that's kind of taken away. So being more appreciative of just the little things and little decisions, and how that plays a role in long-term health, and making simple daily decisions, knowing that you're playing the long game and not just, oh, this will taste good today, or this will make me feel better right now, but how is that going to have a long-term impact on health? Because again, once that's taken away, everything else will fall with it, and that's a hard lesson that I learned this last year. And so that's something that I've made a big effort on, is to change a lot of those little things within my lifestyle and making them more of a priority to just improve my overall health. So everything now has shifted. Instead of more performance, or trying to get as big as I can, as strong as I can, or as good at something as I can, now it's always, well, how is this going to impact my health? And just looking at things through a completely different lens.
Focusing on the long game.
Yeah, and it's changed every single aspect of my life, making sleep more a priority, the way I eat more a priority, being more mindful about stress levels, and trying to do relaxation techniques, and even just appreciative of relationships that I have, like being thankful that I get to hang out with my kids all day instead of being annoyed or stressed out by it. And because again, once your health's gone, you don't get to do those little things anymore. So it's just completely changed the way I approach everything. Like I said, I learned that the hard way this last year, but I think, looking back and the perspective of it, there is some silver lining there, that it's forced me to make a lot better decision now moving forward that hopefully will pay off in the long term. So that would kind of be mine.
I think it kind of ties in, at least for me, because I'm not always known to make the healthiest choices. But I feel like even it's been a week since I really had this time to think about my situation back home. And since I decided that I would start being more positive and taking a step back, like I feel so much better even just in that week. Just because inherently things are going to come up. No matter what you do, if you're trying to progress your life forward, things are going to come up. And it's so easy to just get in this mindset about essentially complaining all the time. And for everyone that knows me, I love to complain. But in the past week, taking a step back and thinking about the implications of whatever comes up rather than just going down the dark path has been so helpful to me, and hopefully I can one day learn that health is important.
Just don't lose it.
So the second question then, I think we can open this up. Fitness purchase and or just other purchase, give or take around the $100 mark, that's had the most impact on your life. I've already been thinking about this one, so I can roll if
Yeah,
we need it.
Yeah, I got it.
I have nothing.
So one is definitely not going to be under $100, although I think there's options you can get that are close, and the other is more work related, but I think could be beneficial. Having gone and done a dry needling course and picking up a bunch of needles for under $100 to utilize, it's been a game changer in some of the treatments. I haven't experimented on myself enough yet, but just for things that we weren't able to get to using my hands for treatment, and what the power that you can get out of that, and not even knowing the full power of it yet, and getting to go back later in June to check that out. Like, that's been huge. And then we just invested in power blocks for the house, the dumbbells, and I haven't used them much yet, but knowing that I will be, and we got the under 90 set, which are not under $100, but it beats the heck out of buying up to 90 pounds in dumbbells for space and cost. Like, having no excuse for not being able to go down and do something. And I feel like once I get my Airdyne down there at some point, then I really won't have an excuse to just go hop down and do something for 20 minutes and reap the benefits of that.
You got a lot of options there too with
Right.
pounds of dumbbells.
Right, except that if anything overhead I have to do is seated because the ceiling's really low, but that's okay. Hopefully in the next house we won't have that issue, but those would be my two things probably over the past year.
It's good. I can attest to the dry needling helping because Joel worked on my hand and it helped. So. My
say that?
Don't worry about it.
LLC.
I think my one would be the Headspace app, subscription to Headspace. And AJ, I know you talked about it a little bit previously, and then also you just alluded to that a little bit as well, Andy, a little bit with being more mindful and everything. But that has had a huge impact on my life. And I tell patients, I mean, we recommend that quite frequently, whether you get that app or find something else that works for you.
There's a couple other ones out there.
Yeah. It's my favorite. I've tried a few of the other ones, and I think it works for me the best. They've got a lot of different options in there, but it's probably the best $100 I spend every year. You know, it's
Not bad.
you got to use it though. You know, and that's another thing. And I think some people get caught up with, you know, things they need to get done or the busyness, craziness of life, and those are probably the people that are going to need it the most. And for myself too, I get in those periods of like, I got all this stuff to get done, and I don't know if I want to take time for that, but getting into that habit has made a big difference. So I would highly recommend it.
I'll go kind of two. One of them is just kind of a broad category, just the resistance bands. Whether you do, you know, the larger ones or the mini bands, there's so many different things you can do from a mobility standpoint, from a prehab standpoint, and even a training effect, depending on which ones you get and how you use them, and all kinds of different strengths and sizes and stuff for those, so it'll cost different amounts. And then I'd say the other one would be proper footwear. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes with either running shoes, walking around shoes, or lifting shoes. I mean,
What are you in now?
I still like the CrossFit ones for lifting, and
The Nanos?
yeah, I'm trying to think of which one I had though. 5 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's those yellow ones.
Yeah, I think-
I really
yeah.
like lifting in them, and then
That's before they started adding more of a heel into them.
Right.
That was, I think, one of their last zero drop ones.
I still like the New Balance Minimus for just like my walking around kind of cross-train shoe, if you want to call it that. I don't do a ton of running in them, but just that
Daily livers.
thin soled, yeah, kind of tennis shoe.
I think I'm going to go a little out of the box and a little more of a metaphorical purchase. So I have a habit of kind of along the same lines of what I was talking about before. When we're busy, I let everything else go, and it's work. Go to the lab at 4 or 5, stay until 7 or 8, and just keep doing that until I burn out and crash. And when I first moved to Fort Worth, a really good friend of mine invited me out with a bunch of people for like dinner and drinks. And I was like, no, I gotta stay in and work. And he's like, being productive is good, but if you can't live life and you're just entrenched in your work all the time, you're never gonna last. So
What's the point?
Yeah.
Eventually, what's the point?
So I think my metaphorical purchase of under $100 would be just
Margaritas.
going. I don't drink alcohol. Whether it's drinks, dinner, lunch, whatever, just grab a group of friends or one person or even by yourself and just do something for yourself with people. Because, like he said, relationships are kind of what keep you going when everything else isn't going for you. So I think surrounding yourself with people you care about, or that you can even just talk to or forget everything, would be my suggested purchase.
I like it. Book recommendations.
Useless in this. All I read is textbook.
What's your favorite textbook that you actually are pulling something out of that you'd be like, I really got something out of this? Not just textbooks for textbook's sake, because I think we've all had that plenty in our careers.
I think,
Or non-existent.
yeah.
The only textbook I've ever read cover to cover is a sports sociology textbook.
Really?
When I was an undergrad.
I
My
read,
favorite one.
who was it by? McIntosh, Skeletal Muscle Structure and Function, was great. It's going to be more for students of this stuff rather than the practical aspect. But if you're new into the field and you're legitimately interested in kind of the physiological mechanisms of different things and how you can piece together, I guess it's more for research because you learn how to piece together X, Y, and Z to justify a specific study, or even if you want to be a very scientific coach, which may for some people be too much. That's a good book. And then I'm not done with it yet, but I'm reading The Physiology of Training for High Performance, I think it's called, by McDougall and Digby Sale, and that's a good one. And they actually do a pretty good job of I feel like anyone could read it and not get lost in it. It's not like Brooks, where it's very dry. I feel like they're very good writers in that aspect.
All right. Well, I'd say the best one I read recently would probably be Crushing It by Gary Vee. That's probably the best one I've read. I mean, for those that haven't read or heard of it, just very practical guide of how to use social media, different platforms strategically to help a business or any kind of brand to help it just grow. I'm going backwards, so now I'm reading Crushing It, the first one that I did first.
What was the first one you recommended?
Crushing It is his recent one,
And Crush It was his
Oh,
first one.
that's
Yeah.
the first one that he wrote probably 10 years ago.
Mhm.
That I just picked up last week, so I'll go back and read the first one. A little bit out of order.
Sweet.
So that one he's probably talking about. You guys ever heard of Facebook? Gotta get on this.
You guys got to hop on the MySpace train.
Yeah.
On the interwebs.
There's a new developing company called Instagram out there that I think is going to make it.
Keep an eye on it. Buy some stock.
I got a few. Top one would probably be Unconventional Medicine by Chris Kresser.
I just listened to his recent podcast when he's talking about that one.
It's really good.
Because he's got a newer one out, the Healthy Gut, Healthy You, right? That he just released,
Really?
I think.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
follow-up, I think, to that with just more specific
Okay.
focus.
Sure. Yeah. This one was very broad.
Mhm.
It was very good. I like a lot of his stuff. So just talking about kind of integrating functional medicine with ancestral, the types of things that our ancestors did that carry over, and basically how our environment now doesn't match our lifestyle, and just kind of how to put that all together and everything. So I do think that is the future of healthcare. It's just slow to get there and
Yeah,
everything,
got a ways
but
to go.
it's super interesting.
His podcast is awesome, too, if people haven't ever heard of it. I'm trying to think of the specific name.
Yeah, I've got it on here. I'm not sure either.
Because the episode I recommend for people, if you're interested in that book and more of the nutrition focus, is the one he did with Chris Masterjohn. I literally was started.
Which are
Maximize your nutrient intake. Chris Kresser.
Revolution Health Radio, is that what
Yep.
it's on? Yeah, that's his
Podcast.
podcast.
We'll link all that up.
Sweet.
Highly recommend his stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Then a couple other good ones. Primal Body, Primal Mind is a good one. Maybe a little bit heavy for just the average, everyday person. Nora Gedgaudas. I probably butchered her last name, but that's who it's
We'll look it up.
You can figure it out off of that. And then Kelly Brogdon, Mind of Your Own, is a really good one too. I think that's maybe a little bit more geared towards females, but a broad application as well.
Nice.
All very similar.
Kind of going back to our point before about not blaming people, I read one called Mistakes Were Made, and then in parentheses it said, but not by me. And I think the subtitle was like how we justify like foolish and bad decisions and make ourselves believe that we're right. And so the big concept of it was the concept of cognitive dissonance, and basically just telling yourself what you need to justify why you're doing things. And I don't know that anything was like earth-shattering in it, but there was a couple examples, and you're just like, that's what that person does, that's what I do, that's what we all do. Holy crap. And you just realize how much
Applying it to some stuff we talked about with Jordan, like when people eat and follow diets,
Right.
that inner struggle happens every meal.
just the BS.
I
you'll
can just eat this for now.
Yeah, right.
And you just justify every little slip up in decision that you're making.
And I think this was a redo, and it ran into some issues on the first one where it just how they were presenting it wasn't the best way, and then they rewrote it, and I thought it was really interesting. There's some real simple take-home points. It's also a pretty quick read. But yeah, pretty interesting. Final question, and you can name the topic before we say this one. In the world of what you do, or would you take something that's complicated and make it simple?
I have an easy one. So I guess the overwhelming topic would be time management. Get a calendar and get like I have a little book that I carry around with me everywhere. I'm not going to dig it around. It's just like a 8.5 by whatever dimension that has a little binding, and it has been such a lifesaver for me. If you're like most people who have a lot of random things you have to do, just saying, oh yeah, I'll do that, you're going to forget.
Right.
At least I will. I'll speak for myself. I forget everything if I don't write it down.
I tell everybody, if you don't email or text me, then whatever you ask me to do, it's gone as soon as I walk out of the room.
So the biggest thing I've done in the past 1.5 years since I started at TCU was I got a little binder book thing that I can write down to-do lists, and that's been super helpful. And then in order to make time for things that are important, I put them on my calendar. So like if there's a particular event that's absolutely cannot miss, even if it's personal to me, I'm putting it on my calendar. That way when people use the same calendar app to schedule, people can see, okay, I can't schedule then. But even
Yep.
for me, it becomes much more significant that it's there, and it would involve me deleting that event to step away from it rather than just scheduling something else.
Kelly now just invites me to everything through my work one, so it automatically ends up on there, so I can't miss it. It's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of her telling me and me entering it, she just creates it, she sends it to me, done.
It's peace of mind too, just not having that weighing on you, like, oh, in the back of your mind, having to try to remember that and everything, where you can just, like, it's written down, you can forget about it, not have to worry about it.
I would add to that with like a targeted message to like undergraduate students and just tell them you're not as busy as you think you are.
Yeah.
Like just wait till
Busy is a
you're
state.
in grad school.
Busy is
Just-
prioritization.
Just wait till you're married. Just wait till you have a job. Just wait till you have kids. Like you don't know what busy is yet. Like when you roll out of bed at 11,
I miss undergrad.
screw around,
How
you know,
much
for a couple
time?
hours, go to class, and then it's like, oh, I'm so busy. It's like,
Yep.
No,
I remember
you're not.
I felt like I was a relatively productive undergrad as far as like comparative to most of my other classmates. Like I had a lot of other things aside from just going to class that I had to do. But even now that I teach undergrads, I talk to them. They're like, "Oh my God, I got so much to do. I can't get this to you by that time." I'm like, I was an undergrad 2 years ago, and I was in the lab. I was training. I was coaching. I was doing all these other things. You're going to school, and then you have your Greek life to do. You're not as busy as you can get this assignment to me tomorrow, but I'm giving you till Friday. Yeah, that's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what you choose to prioritize.
Well, and I think what I've realized is what usually gets chopped away is your lazy time. You know,
Mhm.
like just sitting and watching TV or just sitting and doing like those things just
That's
don't happen anymore.
straight out of Gary Vee's thing. He's not asking you to reorganize your life. He's just saying if it really means something to you, cut out watching,
Yeah.
a
4
marathon
hours
of
of Netflix.
Right, exactly. If you replace that with getting on social media and interacting with people, it's still a grind, but now you're grinding to something that in theory is a passion of yours, and he's not asking you to not sleep on, he put it in this last one, you need 6 to 8.
Yeah. So don't chop it away, from that time. And I think kids forces you to have that,
It does.
awakening of, I can't just sit on the couch for 4 hours because I'm hungover or tired or whatever. It's like, no, you don't have that luxury.
Right.
Like,
They're coming to wake you up at
Yeah.
6:15 no
Exactly.
matter what.
So you better be ready and you better prioritize your time to get the things done that you need to when you can, because when you're with kids, there goes all
And it's
your
nice to be
attention.
able to schedule that though and know that ahead of time. Be like, okay, instead of, like you mentioned, looking at that as a burden, like, oh, I got all this stuff to get done, and the kids want this and want you to do that and that. Well, okay, get your shit done when you plan for that,
Yeah.
and then set that time aside. Okay, now we're gonna go out in the yard and play catch or play a board game or whatever. But you look at that ahead of time, plan for that, and then you're okay with it, and then you can fully be present and not have that the
Sure.
stress and everything with it.
And the hardest thing that I battle with is like this, because you can always work, you can always be on
AJ is
social
pointing
media.
at his phone, by the way.
Sorry. But like, it's always there in your pocket, so you always could be answering emails, or you could be on social media doing stuff, reading things. It's like, it's just always burning a hole in my pocket. So one thing I've done a lot is I just put it on airplane mode, in the do not disturb, so like I don't get the alerts, and it's there if I know I have an important email coming, but otherwise I just try not to be bothered by it and put it away.
I haven't done it yet, but when things at work slow down, like editing, like putting on, like you can put on like blockers on your browser from, like, it'll just stop everything other than what you're working on for the next hour. And so you literally can't access those things. You can't pop on Facebook because a notification popped up.
Yeah. And I know the guys on like Mind Pump Media will
Mhm.
talk about that struggle a lot because their whole business is social media.
Right.
So they can't not be on it and be pretty consistent with their activity. But they said, I can't remember how they phrased it, but they're like, are you producing content, or are you absorbing? Are you there to just,
Or are you just consuming it,
recreationally?
yeah.
Just consuming it, or are you actually being on there for work related
Purposeful.
Yeah. And so they said,
Productivity versus just being there and doing things, like you're actually getting something accomplished.
so that's what they said. They try to delineate the difference between the two. Okay, now I have 20 minutes to kill, I'll just shut my mind off and float through social media platforms. Or it's like, okay, this is work time. I'm on Twitter, yes, but it's for work-related purposes.
Not trying to get too far down a wormhole.
Yeah, and that could suck up an hour easily. So.
Yeah. I think I've gotten so, and it's hard because everyone expects now that you're that accessible. Everyone expects you to be accessible, and I think I've gotten so frustrated with it that I got so far away from using my phone that I was just Joel and I were just talking about this on the way over. Like, I have 20 to 30 unread texts at any point during the week because I'll see it pop up. I'm like, that's not particularly important right now. Like, if it's my mom, like, hey, I need to talk to you, of course, yeah. But if it's just, hey, what are you doing tonight? Probably working, so I don't need to reply to that. And it's gotten to the point where I just shut it off or leave it in my truck. Or like, there are a lot of days when I go to the gym because I hate being bothered in the middle of a workout. I'll just leave it in my truck when I get out to go work out.
That always creates anxiety for me sometimes. Like, I know I'm getting email updates and alerts. It's like you feel the pressure to respond to them. So it's like, I just don't have it.
Even when the big one for me was I'd like accidentally go to the home screen and I'd see like that badge with how many emails I had, and I'm like, oh, there goes my workout.
Yeah.
I've gotten subtly, not on purposely, good at like forgetting where I set my phone. I don't know why it's been like a thing, but that's been happening more and come back. And the airplane mode, I started doing that at night and just turn it off completely. It's supposed to, in theory, help with your sleep too, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I just flip it off, and then, because who's really going to email me between 10 o'clock at night and 5 a.m. in the morning that I really need to have? I don't have that problem.
But again, the mind pump, I think Sal, the host, he'll say the only time he uses his phone is when it's plugged into the charging port. He just leaves it at that spot in the house. So if he's on his phone, he's going to be standing right there using it. Otherwise, that's where it stays.
It comes full circle, like back in the day.
Right.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of
Attached to a wire again.
I think also, so a lot of people, when I have this conversation with like athletes or just other people when we're chit-chatting about productivity or random other things, and we talk about like, oh no, I just want to check Facebook or Instagram as a way to shut off the mind. I think one of the biggest things I've done is picked up other things that are more beneficial than just staring at a screen.
Headspace.
Yeah, Headspace. Mine that I've gotten really into is if I've got 20 minutes, I'm going to sit down and play my guitar. Or
there you go.
One weird thing I like to do is like play with Rubik's Cubes. So instead of like sitting on my phone for 5 minutes, I'll just like do a Rubik's Cube quick and play around. And that's, to me, has been way more, because when you're on your phone, you're engaged, but you're not engaged, and it's not really productive.
I'll play solitaire on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even that's better than searching.
No, yeah, I'm with you.
Anything that you can do that you enjoy rather than just surfing Instagram for something to gossip about or whatever is probably better than. I don't think it's a good excuse that, well, I just want to clear my head.
I gotcha. Well, in the interest of time and moving on, I'll wrap it up. Alright. Well, this will be in a long string of other things coming from this reunion of the Clinically Pressed squad. So we hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you later.